Welcome to Guns and Gear Network, everyone. Appreciate you tuning in. I want to do this little video this afternoon about hardtack. If you've been around the prepping survival community at all, you should be familiar with hardtack. But for those that are not, I wanted to mention it and kind of show you a little bit about what it is. I'll put a recipe in the section down below. It's a real simple recipe. And let me explain what hardtack is if you're not familiar with it. Hardtack is a nickname. It's a food product made of flour and salt and water. That's it. Now, there's variations and stuff, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you a little bit about in this video. It is kind of the original survival food, or the original MRE back in the day. Civil War soldiers used it. A lot of times they would be issued hardtack and maybe some pork salt, something like that, some salted pork to be able to carry into the field to eat with them. It's a real simple recipe. You mix everything together and then you bake it and then let it dry completely. And it's exactly why it's called hardtack, is because it is like hard as hockey pucks. And I've got two different things. What I did was, on this one here, actually I've added a few things to it, and this one also. So what I did to kind of spice things up a little bit, on this one here, I actually added a little cayenne pepper and some, I think, cumin maybe, no, paprika, I'm sorry, cayenne pepper and paprika to the recipe, because it's a dry spice to begin with, so you don't have to worry about it maintaining moisture or anything that would cause it to, if you're going to add anything to this, any type of spices, it needs to be a very dry, powdered style spice. So something that has any moisture content to it at all is not really what you want to use. You want to use something really dry. And the reason is because of long-term storability. And because if there's any moisture in this, it will draw in, and I'm just sitting here munching on this little crumbs here, if it'll draw in moisture, and then when it does that, you'll create mold. But these, a lot of times, there's a bunch of different names for them, sea biscuits, and a lot of sailors would use them crossing long journeys on the ocean. Cowboys used them a little bit after the Civil War, things like that. There's ways you can actually make these a little more palatable. You can, besides adding the spice, but they're still hard and crunchy and just, like I said, you know, kind of jawbreaker type hard once they really truly get dried out. The old cowboys and Civil War soldiers would soak them in their coffee. They would fry them in some of that, if they had some of the salted pork, they would maybe fry it in some of the grease, things like that. You can add these to soups and things. That'll also soften them up, kind of make almost similar to a dumpling type thing. They're really not just awful, because there's nothing to be awful about other than the texture and them being very hard. I actually don't mind these. It's kind of, with the spices. This one here, you can actually hear that crunching in my mouth. This one here, I went a different direction, and I put in, I think, pumpkin pie spice and cinnamon. So I thought this right here may be good in some coffee or something. But a couple different versions. I just simply, you roll it out once you get your dough made. The dough needs to be kind of thick, and there's a bunch of recipes, a bunch of videos, so I didn't want to do a video about how to make it. But if you never played with hardtack and tried making a recipe or something, just to have some little bit of survival food for you guys that are trying to find some options. Matter of fact, some of the food companies, the survival food companies, actually sell something very similar to hardtack. Sometimes it's a thicker type. They call it crackers, but they're not really saltine crackers. These are real thick. There's one called Pilot's bread, things like that. But they actually sell them in a number 10 can. But you can make your own real cheap and easy. So if you're in a survival situation, and I mean, what I mean by that is like grid down, kind of locked into your home, and you're trying to figure out some things to do with some of your stuff you've stored up, like say flour, for instance. Flour, salt, water. You can bake up some of these, put them back, and they'll stay good forever. I mean, there's actually museums that have some of these from back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, that are still, look like they did the day they were made, pretty much. And matter of fact, there's some videos of some people actually eating some of those from back then, eating them today. So there's nothing really to go bad about them. If you're not careful, you can get bugs, or what people call weevils, in these that go after grain type foods, and you can get that occasionally if you're not careful. Even there's rumors that talk about the soldiers, when they were out there, because they didn't get resupplied like we do today, with drop-ins from helicopters and planes and things like that. I mean, they were on horseback and foot. So they would actually just soak these in hot coffee, and it sounds a little gross, but they'd let the bugs work their way out of it through the hot coffee, float to the top, and they'd skim them off with a spoon or whatever, and then drink and eat the coffee. Sounds gross, but people lived a lot different back during those times, and if you were hungry and you were a soldier, you would eat whatever you had. So, but anyway, guys, just kind of wanted to touch base on this. Play with the recipes. Again, if you're going to put anything in it, make sure it's a very, very dry spice. And, don't overdo it with the spice, just a little bit, and kind of play with the recipe, see what you think. I just store mine in some bags. You can store them in Mylar. You can store them in all kinds of things. Jars, mason jars, if you want to do that. I just put them in something like this, knock the air out, and I've got an oxygen absorber in here, and I think like a couple of them, just to kind of keep the moisture down. And I got it's like a silica gel type pack, but I just keep them handy. Do I eat them a lot? No, but it is nice to have a few if you ever would need them. You could have them as a standby. But anyway, guys, just wanted to mention that to you if you hadn't seen or heard about hardtack. And for those that have, know that you can play with the recipes. Like I said, I actually don't mind these too bad, the spicy ones. These are a little more bitter, and I actually debated on maybe trying some with a little bit of powdered sugar to sweeten them up. But I was just kind of, and this way I can test it now to see if it's going to have any long-term storage effects by adding, the spices. But the spicy ones are good. They're actually not too bad, and I think they would go real well with, if you fried them up, in some grease or whatever you had at the time, and or maybe some soup or something like that, some bouillon. Put one of these spicy ones in there, be pretty good. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up button if you like our videos. That's always helpful and appreciative. As always, like, share, and subscribe. We'll bring another video shortly. Have a great day, guys.